judgment. Other scholars, they said, upon their deaths, that the angels will descend upon them. And the angels will tell them, don't be afraid. Don't be stressed out. You are going to be given the reward that you were promised. And so there are two conditions that are mentioned here to obtain that reward and to obtain that visit from the angels. The first one is Iman. The first one is the announcement of Iman and belief. And the second one is Istiqamah. So what is Istiqamah? Istiqamah, it comes from the family of verbs on the pattern istif'al. So istighfar is talabul ghufran. Istighfar is the seeking of forgiveness. Istiqamah comes from qiyam, to stand upright, to stand up. So istiqamah is talabul qiyam. It is the seeking of being upright. And that idea of talab, the idea of seeking, by definition, it means that there's success and that there's failure. It's inherently part of the word istiqamah that there is success in that attempt to be upright, in that attempt to be consistent. And there's also failure. And both of those are part of istiqamah. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells us that when we believe, the other condition there is istiqamah, is that consistency, is that ability to stay on the path. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He knows that it's much easier said than done. It's much easier said than done. Because at the end of those verses of that passage, He says that once the believers are given that reward, nuzulan min ghafurir rahim, that this reward is from the forgiving and the merciful. And so Allah reminds us that He is forgiving. He reminds us that He is merciful when it comes to the case of being consistent. And istiqamah and consistency is a holistic thing. It's a holistic thing. It's a combination of the mind, of the body, and the soul. The Quran and Sunnah tell us to take care of our minds. Hifzul aql. The scholars, they said that one of the maqasid, one of the objectives of Islam, of the Sharia, is to protect the mind. That's why the prohibition of alcohol and intoxicants, that's why it exists. The seeking of knowledge is all part of preservation of the mind. Similarly, the preservation of the body. As Muslims, we believe that this is an amana, our bodies are an amana. That we should seek a cure. That as part of our iman is to seek a cure when we are sick. And then of course the istiqamah of the soul, of the spirit. We have our salawat. And we have our zakah. We are consistently asked to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and consistently be generous to others. There's a book that was written called The Power of Habit. Pretty core book when it comes to studies on habit, pretty commonly referenced book. And the author divides any habit into three parts. The first part is the cue. The first part is the cue, the trigger. The second part is the routine. And the third part is the reward. So the trigger could be when you wake up in the morning and you have this urge for some caffeine. The routine, when you push the button on the coffee maker or you heat up the water to make the coffee. The reward, the smell of the coffee, the taste of the coffee, the caffeine in your body. That's the three steps of any habit. And so whenever we want to build any habit, we look at these 3 steps. How do we interact with these 3 steps? What is the trigger? What is the cue? What is the routine? And what is the reward? And as you play around with those levers, you can produce new habits for yourself, good habits for yourself. You can leave bad habits once you recognize the different aspects of those habits. So for example, if I want to read Quran every day, then I have to first look at what is the trigger? What is the thing that helps me to get started? What is the thing that reminds me? Maybe I read about the virtues of reading Quran every day. Maybe I read about the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised to those, the blessings of reading the Quran, of every single harf. Maybe I place the Quran in a way where I will see it. I make sure that I see it so it's a reminder. So I come up with a cue. Maybe I ask my spouse or my Quran reading partner to remind me. And then my routine, I establish a routine around that. I try my best to start with something simple. Maybe it's once every 3 days. Maybe it's every day on weekends. Maybe it's something small. I start with the routine and I build upon that. And then finally, the reward. The reward is the feeling of accomplishment. The reward is being able to read those verses in our salah. The reward is having that connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The reward is that connection to your family when you pray together at home. All of those pieces, they come together. And that can go for anything. And then the author of The Power of Habit, he talks about something called keystone habits. Keystone habits. He says that if you can establish a keystone habit, then everything else becomes easier. So what is a keystone habit? What is a keystone? A keystone in a let's say a wall made of rocks or any kind of wall, when you remove the keystone, everything else becomes weaker. Right? That's the keystone. So what is the keystone habit? So the author gives examples like that of exercise or that of eating healthy. So you take something that is most people have trouble with, most people have difficulty with. If you're able to establish yourself in that, then everything else becomes easier. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has given us a keystone habit. We don't have to look here and there for that. And that is our salah. If we can discipline ourselves for the salah, then every other habit becomes easier. Because we can connect everything to salah. We can say that after Fajr, this is my routine. And after Dhuhr, this is my routine. And after Asr, this is my routine. And after Maghrib and after Isha. In Seattle, also depending on summer and winter. But otherwise, I can connect my different habits to my salah. And that's how I can build upon that. And so once I have the ability to create new habits for myself, then I can come closer to achieving that istiqamah. And the Quran and Sunnah have given us that. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, أَحَبُّ الْأَعْمَالِ إِلَى اللَّهِ أَدْوَمُهَا, that the most beloved of deeds to Allah, the most beloved of deeds to Allah. When we want to do some research on Google, how do people type into Google? Do they say, I want a vacuum cleaner? No. They say, what is the best vacuum cleaner? What is the best chicken recipe? What is the best diapers? Whatever. Right? You do research like that. You want to know the best thing. And so the Prophet ﷺ, he said, what is the most beloved deed to Allah? He said, أَدْوَمُهَا وَإِنْ قَلَّ, that the most beloved of deeds to Allah are those that are the most consistent. أَدْوَمُهَا, what a beautiful word. If you've heard the word da'iman, abadan, forever and always. أَدْوَمُهَا, the most consistent of deeds are the most beloved to Allah. وَإِنْ قَلَّ, even if they are qaleel, even if they are few, even if they are small, even if they are little. Because that is how the true change, that's how it happens. How many of us have tried We go to Costco, we buy the 2-year annual membership, 2-year membership to 24-hour fitness. We go one day. MashaAllah, we've burnt out after one day. How many times has that happened? Because the problem is we're trying to start with something too big. Prophet ﷺ, he said, start with something small. Right? It's the example of Ramadan. How can we build up good habits in Ramadan? The Prophet ﷺ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us the perfect way to establish a good habit. He's given us the perfect way of Ramadan every single year. The Sahaba used to look forward to Ramadan, the blessings of Ramadan, the potential of Ramadan, and that's baked into our deen. Yesterday, we had a program on healthy eating. And one of the latest, I'm sure many of you know, one of the latest ways to do healthy eating or to eat healthily is intermittent fasting. And so fasting is a part of so many diets and recommendations that doctors are giving. And we've had this in our deen. Fasting is a part of our deen, Monday and Thursday. And so if we look at that, if we try to live by what we have and the principles that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, then we can achieve so much. But first we have to start with that trust and that iman, that certainty has to be there. And that comes through knowledge, but it also comes through practice. Right? There's a point in any field where theory, you've had enough theory. Any more theory will just lead to analysis paralysis. Instead, now you have to take action. So what are the practical steps? What is something that we can do today? That I'm going to read 5 minutes of Quran today. I'm going to read something today. Fridays are for Surah Al-Kahf. I'm not going to read the whole thing because I never do it. I'm just going to read 2 pages of it. I'm going to read 1 page of it. I forgot how to read Arabic. Let me start with a program where I learn how to read Arabic. Let me do that. Let me start with something basic. Right? Just like how we do research for any other thing, for our work, we want to study, we want to learn. Same thing for the Quran, same thing for our connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives us knowledge that benefits us and that He helps us to have istiqamah and to have that consistency in our lives. آمين. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. So in conclusion, my brothers, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He told us to have iman and then to have istiqamah. Even the Prophet ﷺ, one man came to him. A man came to the Prophet ﷺ and he said, Awsini ya Rasulullah, give me wasiyah, give me long-lasting advice. Give me long-lasting advice, wasiyah. Wasiyah was the word for will, for what you leave behind for your children. So ya Rasulullah, give me wasiyah, give me the kind of advice that you would leave behind for your children. And he said, قُلْ آمَنْتُ بِاللَّهِ ثُمَّ اسْتَقِمْ. He said, say that you believe in Allah and then take action on that. And then have istiqamah, remain consistent on that. That is the secret. That is the simple secret in 3 words, in 4 words. That is the simple secret. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He helps us to have that istiqamah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to fulfill the needs of those that are in need. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He cures the sick. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He has mercy on those that have passed. In particular, we have a request from Brother Ahmed. His mother is in the ICU. Please make dua for her. We also have a request from Brother Ali that a family relative of his is passed away from COVID. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala relieve their suffering. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give patience to their family and have mercy on those that have passed. Ameen. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He unites us and that He helps us to have that steadfastness. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. عباد الله، إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. اذكروا الله يذكركم ولذكر الله تعالى أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون. وقم الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر، أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله، أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح، قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر، لا إله إلا الله.
الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم، صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. والتين والزيتون وطور سينين وهذا البلد الأمين. لقد خلقنا الإنسان في أحسن تقويم ثم رددناه أسفل سافلين إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات فلهم أجر غير ممنون. فما يكذبك بعد بالدين؟ أليس الله بأحكم الحاكمين؟ الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم، صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا فسبح بحمد ربك واستغفره إنه كان توابا. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Just a few announcements, inshallah. Number one is the new COVID restrictions and safety at MAPS because of the spike in COVID cases. We are going to limit the Jumu'ah to less than 20 minutes total. As we did today, there was a delay today because of the live stream. But please continue to register for all the prayers you make at MAPS using the Smart Jamaat app. MAPS MCRC will be having a drive-through Thanksgiving dinner on Tuesday from 4 to 6 p.m. Please let your neighbors and your colleagues and anyone who you know who could use that community blessing to come on Tuesday, inshallah, and that generosity. Sunday tafsir with Sheikh Juban at 5 p.m. and the Muslim experience with Brother Ala Badr tonight at 7:30 p.m. Jazakumullah khair.